Michael, what's today's audio?
Today we're comparing tallboy and bookshelf speakers. Both are B&W speakers, the 702S2 tallboy and the 705S3 bookshelf.
How do you distinguish between tallboy and bookshelf?
Tallboy speakers are tall speakers. They are also called floor models. The speaker box, enclosure, is large and has a rich bass. Bookshelf speakers are literally the size of a bookshelf speaker. They are small in size and easy to install. Many are inexpensive because they have fewer speaker units.
Wouldn't tallboys sound better because they have larger enclosures and more speaker units? Master would like to know the difference between tallboy and bookshelf speakers, right?
Yes, I want to know.
I also thought that tallboy speakers sound better because they have more speaker units and look more powerful.
How did it turn out?
It's hard to compare because they are from different generations of speakers, but I found that the bookshelf speakers have good bass and the treble is bright, rather than having fewer speaker units.
What kind of equipment did you use?
The sound source is Amazon Music, the network player is Marantz SECD30N, and the amplifier is Accuphase E380. The 700 series has a sponge in the bass reflex duct to adjust the bass. There are 3 types of bass control systems: sealed with all sponges, fully open with no sponges, and semi-open with only half of the inner diameter open. This time, I auditioned the fully open type. I think the fully open type produces the most natural bass sound. The S2 series is 1 generation before the S3. Therefore, not only the difference between tallboy and bookshelf speakers, but also the difference between the generations reflects the result of this experiment. Bookshelf speakers require speaker stands or racks due to their height. The 702S2 is a tallboy, so all you have to do is to put spikes on the speakers. The 705S3 requires a special stand with sand, sorbethane, screws, and so on. However, since 702S2 weighs 30 kilograms and 705S3 about 10 kilograms, bookshelf is easier to install. I used to use a B&W 804 tallboy speaker. After that, I started to use 702S2. I was going to buy a tallboy 702S3, but it became too expensive, so I gave it up. I was very nervous about changing from a tallboy to a bookshelf.
What were you worried about?
The 702S2 is a 3-way system with 1 tweeter, 1 mid-range, and 3 woofers. On the other hand, the 705S3 is a 2-way system with 1 tweeter, 1 mid-range, and 1 woofer. Since there is no woofer dedicated to bass, I naturally thought it would lack bass. And since there is only 1 unit of mid-range and woofer together, I expected that 2-way would not be enough for me who had been using 3-way so far.
But you were okay with the 2-way?
Yes, it was. In a good way, it was a surprise. The 705S3 has as much bass as the 702S2. The treble is crisp and the balance is excellent.
Is that because of the S3 series?
I think it probably is. In fact, having used the 705S2 signature in my subsystem, I think there is a significant difference in performance between the 705S3 and the 705S2. The specs haven't changed, but it seems to have evolved a lot from the S2 to the S3.
So the price has gone up a lot, but the performance has gone up as well.
The price has almost doubled from S2 to S3 series. Of course, I think the cost has gone up, but I guess the performance has also gone up.
Tell us about the features of each of them.
The 702S2 has the volume of sound made possible by its large enclosure. This is the advantage of tallboy speakers. The tweeter on top of the enclosure, which is a B&W characteristic, leads to good treble separation. The 705S3 has good localization, which is made possible by the small number of units. The localization is what impressed me the most when I heard the 705S3.
What is good localization?
With a tallboy, the sound image is dispersed because there are many units that produce sound. You don't notice it when you listen to a tallboy alone, but when you listen to a bookshelf, you can experience the advantage of having all the units at your ear level. It is as if all the sound is coming from one point. This is very comfortable. Not only that, the performance of the tweeter has been greatly improved in the S3 series. The treble separation is an order of magnitude better than in the S2 series.
Sound separation?
The speed of the rise and fall of the sound. It's also very pleasant to listen to.
Some B&W products have tweeters in the enclosure. Do you prefer tweeter on top?
If you've never heard a tweeter on top, you wouldn't notice it. But once you hear a tweeter on top, you will never go back to it. The enclosure is there to make the bass sound. Therefore, the enclosure must be large enough to produce bass. The highs don't need the enclosure to resonate, so it makes sense to put the tweeters outside the enclosure.
What about the quality of the enclosure?
I don't feel that the appearance is that high class. The 800 series is probably the best in terms of appearance. The obvious difference is that the quality of the speaker terminals has improved dramatically from the S2 to the S3. Just connecting speaker cables to the S3 terminals makes me happy.
By the way, the bass sound is very good even on a bookshelf.
Not every bookshelf can produce bass. In fact, I felt the bass was weak in the 705S2 signature. The enclosure of the 705S3 is smaller, but I heard that the ducts for bass sound have been improved and lengthened.
Bigger enclosure produces more bass, but 705S3 has a smaller enclosure, but they made some effort.
It seems so. When I started using the 705S3, I knew I would get crisp highs. High-definition treble is a characteristic of B&W. I was surprised to find that the bass was crisp as well. I think the S3 series is a big improvement over the S2.
What about the Tallboy 702S3?
I'm curious about that, but I haven't had a chance to listen to the 702S3 at the moment because of its high price. Besides, my listening room is small, about 14 square meters. Tallboy speakers may not perform well in a small room.
How big should the room be?
It depends on the size of the speakers, but to get the most out of the 700 series Tallboy speakers, at least 20 square meters is recommended. From this point of view, it is possible that the 702S2 is not performing as well as it should in this comparison. In this case, I found that the bookshelf 705S3 is not only comparable to the Tallboy, but may even be better than the Tallboy in terms of localization.
Why don't you test it in a larger room this time? By the way, Master's room is big, isn't it?
Well, my room is small.